UAlbany athletics is seeing a prominent rise to national relevance within the last 15 years. Men's basketball, women's basketball. This year in particular, men's lacrosse really on the board nationally, but they've been good over the last 15 years as well. And one of the prominent reasons why is Lee McElroy, athletic director. He announced his retirement on Monday. He'll be retiring at the end of the month, effective June 30th. Joining me today on 1045theteam.com exclusively is UAlbany men's basketball color commentator Zach By. Zach, thanks for being with us today.
Oh, of course, man. Thanks for having me.
So, Zach, what was your reaction when you heard the news that Lee McElroy was retiring?
Well, I was a little bit surprised on the timing. I thought they would have waited till all the operations were shut down over there at the university for the summer. But more or less, I was not that surprised. Folks who are close to the program had heard whispers about this coming for some time. And Lee McElroy's been there for a long time. You're talking about a 14-year stretch that's, you don't want to say ran its course, but you have a new leadership over there at the university, and he was, long-standing AD and so much success. Now seemed like, the right time for him to step away, sort of, on top, if you will, if you can use that athlete analogy.
McElroy helped oversee UAlbany's transition from Division II to Division I, and then, like I said earlier, their relevance into Division I. How much of UAlbany's athletic success is attributed to the man up top?
Well, I think a fair share. I really do. And obviously these athletes are the ones that are on the playing field winning these championships. But if you don't have structure and the right things in place as a department, eventually that's going to trickle down to the coaches. That's going to trickle down to recruiting. And obviously that wasn't the case here with UAlbany. They were able to pull a terrific recruits from all over the state of New York and beyond, the facilities, the coaches. And here's something worth mentioning here, Brady, that I don't think is talked enough about, is that Dr. McElroy had a unique ability to get coaches to stay at UAlbany. So they would have success and re-sign with the university as opposed to jumping up a level. And I think a good example was that of Will Brown after the 06-07 tournament run, where you have national spotlight on UAlbany and the way they push Connecticut, and then for Will Brown to get offers from the Atlantic 10 and turn around and re-sign as a coach in the America East at the University at Albany. I think there's something to be said for that from Dr. McElroy's perspective. I think that if he's not putting in the legwork and all the stuff behind the scenes that we don't see, maybe Will Brown is not the head men's basketball coach at UAlbany, or Coach Katie Abrahamson-Henderson, the women's coach, who has been to several tournaments in a row here, is not the head women's basketball coach. You always hear it talked about how important it is to have that unity in as a department between the coaches and athletic director. Shoot, we've seen coaches leave their high-level programs at the BCS level because they don't get along with their athletic director. And I think Dr. McElroy's unique ability to keep those coaches in both men's and women's track and in volleyball and men's and women's basketball, and Bob Ford, of course, the longtime football coach, all these coaches chose to stay at home. And I think a portion of the credit has to go to Dr. McElroy for that.
Do you know, or have you heard any of the reaction from the UAlbany athletic staff, Coach Will Brown, any of the other coaches on staff there at UAlbany, what their reaction is to the news?
You want to know what? I haven't talked to anyone directly. I texted back and forth a little bit with a few people that work over at the university. And, everyone is sort of tipping their cap to Dr. McElroy. And sometimes that's not the way these things work on the way out. If there's a disgruntled coach or players or feel some type of way about how their time with Dr. McElroy or UAlbany went, you may hear a pot shot or two on the way out or subliminal quote or things of that nature, and you're not seeing a lot of that with Dr. McElroy. He had a great working relationship with a lot of people over there at the university, and I think that's what you're looking for. You're not looking for your athletic director to be going out and grabbing drinks with you at happy hour. You're looking for a working relationship, someone who's going to work hard and do for you what you need done as a program and as a department, and that's what he brought to the table. And I think that there was a sort of reverence for Dr. McElroy, considering all that he was able to do for the university, and even before he stepped on campus. I mean, we got to remember that this guy was a football player at UCLA. I mean, he was a terrific athlete, so he always had that athlete mentality that helped him with these working relationships with the coaches that he was eventually in charge of in the department. So, on his way out, you're going to hear a lot of quotes like from Scotty Marr, who said that they looked up to Dr. Lee McElroy like a big brother. And, of course, Scotty Marr, the head lacrosse coach at the University at Albany, who's got a lot of credibility behind his name. So when you hear him, praising, going out of his way to really tip the cap and verbally give him the credit where it's due, that's more of what you're hearing from the people who work over at the university.
Zach By, University at Albany men's basketball color commentator, joining me today on 1045theteam.com, talking about Lee McElroy's retirement from the position of athletic director at UAlbany. And Zach, one of the things that it always gets talked about, but guys don't get praised for it enough, is we talk about the phrase student athlete and how sometimes the athlete part takes precedence over the student part. But that wasn't the case in Dr. McElroy's tenure.
He's obviously taken it very, very seriously. And so oftentimes, when you're talking about an authoritative position like Dr. Lee McElroy's athletic director position, you're not seeing him every day. He doesn't have his pulse on your life. But the fact of the matter is his approach in those meetings and the conversations with the coaches, stressing that seriousness of being a student first, you better believe that imprint from Dr. McElroy is now branded on the coaches who do have a pulse on these kids' everyday life and now do have the power to stress how important those academics are. And you always hear the trickle-down effect. And I think Dr. Lee McElroy is a good example of that, was stressing those qualities onto the coaches, and that the next stage down from coaches to students, they understood how important it was. And that's something that starts at the top, because you better believe, and it's happened at universities around the country, when the athletic director has a tendency to turn the other way or possibly sacrifice what they know to be true and virtuous and trade it in for athletic success. We've seen it in the past 5 or 10 years in the state of New York. When you trade it in for success, you compromise the integrity of the entire university and the entire athletics department. You saw the complete polar opposite with Dr. McElroy.
Zach, we'll get you out of here. 2 more quick questions. What do you think is next for UAlbany?
Well, you know what? This is the ripest that this fruit has ever been. And it's really unprecedented. Well, I shouldn't say unprecedented, but the meteoric rise for this area, at least, unprecedented. I mean, Brady, when you and I were growing up and were kids, I mean, UAlbany's athletic programs were the definition of an afterthought.
That's right.
Not saying they weren't strong or good teams or players didn't come through, but as far as the real capital region consciousness, or even regional conference consciousness, and better yet, national consciousness, like we've seen in the past couple of years, I mean, we need to sort of pinch ourselves and remember that in 1998 or 1994, let's say 20 years ago, these were teams that were playing in broke-down gyms, similar to Pee Wee football fields. And you fast forward 20 minutes later, your team has hung banners and has put people at the professional level all over the country, and the dominance and the new football stadium, a new football conference, and it's hard to measure. But when you look at it with a snapshot, you say, "Wow, this building wasn't here." This coach stayed. These banners are hanging here largely to do with the hard work of him. So to say where they're going to go next, they have to have good leadership. This is a very important hire. There's a lot of momentum right now for the university. Albany just won another Commissioner's Cup this year. They're second in 3 years, which means they have the best overall athletic programs in the American East Conference. So whoever takes this job is going to have a nice little springboard for the past 15 years off the hard work on the back of the student athletes, coaches, and of course Dr. Lee McElroy. So whoever comes in is going to be put in a really good position to be successful.
Lee McElroy retiring. You alluded to it earlier. Bob Ford, football coach, long time at UAlbany, been there for as long as I can remember. He'll be out next season as well. What's it going to look like in UAlbany athletics next year, and just how different is it going to be to you?
You know what? I was just talking to my partner, Roger Wilde, the other night saying, wow, you know, this is going to be so much different. Entire football staff, like you said, and new athletic department, new leadership overall inspires change and sort of, you know, kicks everyone into gear again. So I'm really interested to see who gets the job, the athletic department job, but also just how things work over there at the university in its totality, because the way they've been doing it for so long, which has been working, it's going to be different because new leadership's coming in. So it's going to be different all around, Brady, you know, but in situations like these, you just have to embrace change and trust that President Jones is going to make the best decision for both the athletic department and the university. And it gave me a lot of change, but you know what? Like they say, change, it'll do you good.
All right, that's Zach By, UAlbany men's basketball color commentator, joining us today exclusively on 1045theteam.com. Zach, thanks for joining us. Be well, and we'll be talking to you again soon, I'm sure.
Oh, I appreciate you so much having me on, Brady. Take care of yourself.